Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Italian Football Podcast, the official podcast of Football Italia. I'm Carlo Garganese, joined as always by Nima and Carlo. On today's show, we will review the weekend Serie A action. Inter are starting to pull away at the top after putting 6 past Pisa. Juventus ended Napoli's Scudetto defence by thrashing the champions in Turin. Milan are also 5 points off Inter after a tense draw at Roma. Is the Scudetto over? We'll discuss that. The race for fourth, though, is fierce as Como hit Torino for 6. Atalanta have a big win. Marco Verratti could be recalled by Italy. Is this a good or desperate choice by Rino Gattuso? And we'll also preview the Champions League action with Napoli needing to beat Chelsea to avoid elimination. And we'll also have our usual Baggio, Premface, and multiple Serie ASS of the week. If you want to support the Italian Football Podcast and receive all of our content that we do throughout the week without any ads, including our free Monday review show, our weekly Q&A episode, plus the Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction, and much, much more, then go to patreon.com/TIFP, become a subscriber for just $3.99 a month. You can also watch our free episodes and shorter clips on YouTube, and you can become a patron on YouTube memberships, youtube.com/@itarfootpod. And you can also sign up to be a paid subscriber on Spotify. So wherever you consume us, Spotify, Apple, iTunes, YouTube, and we really appreciate if you give us a 5-star rating. If you've not already done so, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. Okay, let's get into today's show. So we'll start off with Juventus versus Napoli, and Napoli's Scudetto defence almost certainly over. But let's talk about this from the Juventus point of view first. 3-0 win for Juventus, a statement win for Luciano Spalletti and Juve. And I think the first thing to say from this game is that if it wasn't already obvious, Luciano Spalletti, who has a contract until the end of the season, give him a new contract now. Give Luciano Spalletti a new contract now because he's doing a brilliant job. This game shows how much Juventus have improved and the job that Spalletti is doing. Juventus are really playing really well at the moment. They're in great form. Last 10 games, they've won 8, drawn 1, and lost 1. They deserve to win both of those 2 games as well. And really, I would say, for the first time during this crisis of the last 5 to 6 years, where Juve have not won anything and not challenged even for the Scudetto, been way off challenging even for the title, let alone winning it. For the first time during that time, Juventus are playing good football. They're playing structured football. You can see their identity. You can see the patterns of play. You can see the manager getting the best and improving players. Players who maybe are not good enough for Juventus and who were a disaster or weren't even getting a chance under, for example, Igor Tudor. I can think of Jonathan David, Kostic, who both scored in this game, Moretti, who got an assist in this game. Now, these players probably aren't da Juve, but you can see the influence of Spalletti, that he's even getting something out of these players as well. So, yeah, I think that is the message really from the first message from this game, that just give Spalletti a job, give Spalletti the job now, because I don't see anyone else that they should appoint that offers the guarantees that we can see Spalletti is offering now.
Well, the guarantees he offers it's Spalletti. He is a very good coach. His career is a testament to that. I wish we would have seen this Spalletti with Italy. Then he would still be the coach of Italy, and Italy would be probably qualified for the World Cup already. But he's doing a fantastic job. But we know he would have. I mean, his career at Roma, at Inter, at Napoli, it shows that he's a very solid coach. He's tactically very solid. He's good at building an identity. He's good at building a team unit. He's good at getting players, creating a system where players express themselves from their strongest angles. They're able to express their strengths. And I saw a stat that was shared in the Patreon chat that we've got on patreon.com/TIFP. Whenever you become a member, you can you also have access to the group chat, which I think is probably my favorite thing about the community we've built. And someone shared this. I can't remember who it was, but this is such a brilliant stat from yesterday's game. So if you look at the lion's share of possession, Napoli had that, right? But if you look at the number of passes that Juve did in the opposition half, it was 217, whereas Napoli had 202. In the final third, Juve completed 106 passes, Napoli 87. So you can see that he's not. It was Hamza, actually, your mate Hamza Mir, who shared that, which I think is really, that is a very useful stat, because it goes to show that just having possession for the sake of having possession is not really relevant. It's where you have the possession, and if you can harm teams, and where you have the possession, and if you can, what you do with that possession. And yesterday, Spalletti gave a masterclass of what possession football is, meaning it doesn't matter how much you have it, it's where you have it when you have it, and what you do with it when you have it. And Juventus were just outstanding. Napoli didn't have a prayer, completely neutralized Conte, and then harmed Napoli. I'm still having struggling to understand that Conte's with Napoli and Spalletti's with Juve. But it's where you have it, how you have it, what you do with it. And the way that he just completely they dominated Napoli. Napoli didn't have a prayer, even though they had more of the possession, and they won fully deservedly. It was the first time that we've seen, I think, Juve, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, in the sense that, they finished top four for the last few years. They won the Coppa Italia with Allegri, but there wasn't they didn't behave like Juve should, even with a lesser percentage of the possession. Here they did. Whether he should get a new contract or not, I think it's been clear that he would. And whether or not they're good enough to win the Scudetto, we're way, we can't even focus on that right now. We have to wait and see what happens in the summer. You have so much work to do before they can even think of doing that. But it's looking good. He's basically, what he has done for the first time in many, many years, is create some sort of identity, some sort of patterns of play, some sort of team unit, some sort of system where players are able to express themselves and their traits from their strongest position. And that's something that we haven't seen for many years. He's tactically
outclassing managers as well, which is allowing Juve to get the results and deliver the performances that they are. Because you've just given one example of how he outcoached Conte in this game. The opposition are struggling to counteract just the way that he's structuring his movements, the patterns of play, the little tactical movements. It's great. And the other thing I should add is the defense, which has been a problem. And probably again, man for man, this isn't a defense da Juve, but I think a lot of that's also down to Bremer. Since Bremer's returned, Juventus are so much more secure in defence, but it's also down to Spalletti. Napoli barely created a chance. I think just the one off when Lukaku came on, they had, when the game was already over by that time. And that was it, really. And Juventus have had 7 clean sheets in this 10-game run. 7 clean sheets. So it's not just the Juventus that are playing, like you said, like a Juve, that are generally the bosses on the pitch, not possession-wise in this game. But if you've watched the Spalletti's games, Juventus are trying to be positive and trying to be the team that are controlling. So they're playing like a Juventus should be, and that's how you build. You can't build anything long term, we'll get to Milan after, doing, for example, what Allegri's doing. So that is positive as well. So yeah, it was a great win for Spalletti. Just before we move on though to Napoli, I'd like to say, why did it not work? Why is it working so well for Spalletti at Juventus, but didn't work for Italy? Let's be honest, it was a bit of a disaster, Spalletti, for Italy. Why is
it was a disaster.
Why has it worked so well for Juventus and not for Italy? I mean, there's the obvious stuff. There's the personnel, but then again, I look at the personnel of Juventus and I say, well, is the Juventus team stronger than the Italy team on paper, player for player? I would say probably not, to be honest with you. I mean, if you take Yildiz, Juventus have a potential superstar there. Spalletti said at the end of the game, he called him an alien. Italy don't have an alien. So obviously that's important when you've got somebody that can make the difference, create the overload, which Italy don't have anyone that can create overloads. So they don't have anyone that can dribble or beat their man like a Yildiz down. So that's important. But generally, player for player, I don't see much difference. The formation, it never really worked with a back three. But I mean, Spalletti's moved more to a back four now with Juventus. But even before he did that, it was starting to work quite well with a back three. I think the only thing that I can say 100% is with Italy, you don't get to train the players day in, day out. And Spalletti, maybe as a club manager, did get the chance to manage gets the chance every single day to improve, to work on the tactics, to work on the structures, to work on the patterns of play. Don't get that with Italy. And also maybe being an Italy manager is less about tactics and more about the mental side, the man management, how you inspire and motivate your players. And maybe Spalletti, that isn't his strength.
No, I disagree. I think Spalletti's fantastic at motivating players. I think he's fantastic at those things. I think the issue that happened is that he was very, very cocky and arrogant at Italy. He was not humble at Juve when he joined. Remember those words when he was appointed? When they asked him about the length of his contract, that really stood with me. He said that, he understands that he's fallen down the pecking order after what happened with Italy. That suggests humility. He walked into the Italy job as the champion of Serie A, having won it with Napoli in record-breaking fashion. That means his ego was in a different place. Now, we know that he's very, very stubborn. He's always been stubborn. But he did not show any kind of tactical humility when he was with Italy. He started shoehorning players into positions they shouldn't have been playing in. He refused to accept any criticism. Players weren't happy. He was just constantly angry, and it just didn't work with. But he did try to change the formations. He did change the formations. In fact, I would say the opposite is that he didn't stick with his principles with Italy. He folded and went to a back three because certain players, maybe the Inter wanted him to go to a back three. He's played with a back three with Juve for most of the time as well, and he's gotten those results which you listed.
That's the point I'm making. So is it a tactical issue or not? I mean,
it is a tactical issue because my point is simply that he had a different approach in how he viewed this. It wasn't really a back three, if you remember. It was some sort of a hybrid back three, back four, where the players didn't understand what they were supposed to do. And as a result of that, it looked really, really awful. Let's remember that his genius move for the knockout stage for Switzerland was playing Cristante. And who else was it? Was it Fagioli? I mean, Stefan El Shaarawy. So no, there was no humility there. And there was no trying to create a feeling with the players. Let's remember after they equalized against Croatia in that game, and the way that he behaved post game, where he was fighting with journalists. I mean, there was a completely different attitude altogether. Now this is a Spalletti that's back to basics, and as a result, he's doing his best work. Some of his best work.
Well, there is a team spirit with Juventus. With Italy, there never was a spirit at all. He never created any kind of environment. And how much of that was down to him? How much of it was down to maybe the players? I think the players have to take some of the blame for that as well, definitely, and not because it hasn't worked. They haven't created that spirit. Well, I don't know if they've created that spirit with Gattuso either, to be honest. That's supposed to be his strength. So maybe it's just a poison environment with Italy and it won't work with anyone. I don't know. But it's just what we can say is that.
No, when it comes to Italy, throughout the national team, from whenever Italy has been strong, it's been the strongest club team in the Serie A. The manager of Italy has been able to work and build around the core and the strongest team in Italy, who has the most Italian players, which has usually been either Juve or Milan or Inter, whatever. But they've been managed to make it work. During this era, when Inter have been the strongest, they've not done that. They've not. Mancini had a different project. He came in and he started building with young players, playing his identity, the kind of football he wanted. He had Barella, he had Jorginho, he had Verratti, and that was the core from which he built. During this era, they haven't built around the Inter block. Instead, they've tried to shoehorn the Inter block in different positions, and that's why it hasn't worked. It's pretty much the same illness under Spalletti as under Gattuso. They don't have managers that can make that block work. Instead, when you have that, it's just not going to work. And Spalletti, unfortunately, did not show his approach, his attitude, the soft-spokenness, which he's so good at. I mean, when he's doing well, that just wasn't there. He was on edge. He was angry. He was confrontational. And when you have that kind of attitude, that rubs off on the players, especially in a short tournament. I've said.
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. I think it goes both ways, and I think that maybe the problem wasn't the manager. I don't know. That's the point I'm saying. Because Italy is the exception to what we've seen from Spalletti. Certainly during his career, really, he's a builder. And he's done fantastic, and he's building again with Juventus, even with weaker players. But it's just, it is a shame.
But you also have to look at the when he was at Italy, how it was. Yes, his career is the way it is. He's good at building team spirit. He's good at building a unit. But in Italy, it was a different attitude. It was a different energy. He was very confrontational and very. Just not the kind of Spalletti you'd expect to see. I agree.
But was that because of him, or was that because of other factors? The players, the press, the fans, the whole environment. I don't know, but it's working now.
It could be all of the above. I mean, there's it's not just one thing. It's a combination of everything.
Yeah. Look, let's move on to Napoli, Spalletti's former club, because while things are looking up for Juve, things are looking down for Napoli. And we can say now, I think 100%, that Napoli's Scudetto defence is over. 9 points off Inter. But not just that. I think that they shouldn't be looking up right now. They should be looking down, because even fourth place could be at risk. They're level now. Joint third, joint fourth, third and fourth joint on points with Roma. They're only 1 point ahead of Juventus, 2 points ahead of Como. And when you look at the terrible form that Napoli are in, how badly they're playing, the condition of the players that are fit, and there's not many of them fit, and given the injury list that they have right now, I mean, Napoli's injury crisis, it has killed them. There's no doubt about that. David Neres is now out for 2 months as well. He's been their best player this season. Rachmani, their best defender, De Bruyne, Anguissa, Politano, Gilmour. Lukaku has only just come back. That's the one positive, but it's obviously going to, as we saw from his performance when he came, it's going to take him time to build up, as it usually does. Conte said after the game, "For the first time in my career, I had a player take to the field who I'd never even seen in training as a youth." And that says a lot about our situation. So it looks bad for Napoli. And I would go a step further here, Nima, and I would say, will Conte walk again in the next months? We've been here before, haven't we? Brilliant first season at his club, wins the league, gets into Europe, things fall apart. Conte gets unhappy. He starts moaning. He starts fighting. complains about the transfer market, which has been a disaster this season. We'll come to that. And then he walks, either during his second season or in or before his third season, he walks. We've been here so many times. And the way that it is now at Napoli, things are unraveling and they could completely fall apart now.
Look, we have to be honest. This could be a nightmare week for them, because if they don't beat Chelsea, they could be out of Europe altogether. Which
they will be out of Europe.
Yeah,
they don't beat
Chelsea. Exactly. But if they don't beat Chelsea, they're out of Europe as well, and that's a huge failure. And as for and I think that we are approaching the end of the Conte era at Napoli. We always knew that it was never going to end pretty, but it depends on how it ends. He's won the Supercoppa, he's won the Scudetto, he's never won the Coppa Italia. They've got the quarterfinal against, I think, Como. They have to focus on top four. I think they'll get top four. I think with one game a week, I think he will be able to manage and coach and see this crisis through, even though it's an injury crisis. But I do think that we're approaching the end of the Conte Napoli project, and I think that's a good thing both for Conte and for Napoli. I think what he came on to do was to kind of reestablish them again in the top. He has done that. They won the Scudetto. They will finish top four. They are in the top four. I think they will finish top four, and that's kind of stabilized them. It's still a disappointing season. Maybe he can win the Coppa Italia for the first time in his career, and if he does, he will have in 2 seasons won everything domestically in Italy at the highest level: the Scudetto, the Supercoppa, and the Coppa Italia. And that's a decent, respectable sending off. But yeah, I do think he walks at the end of this season, and I think his replacement will be Vincenzo Italiano, who I think will leave Bologna as well, and who we know Aurelio De Laurentiis has wanted at Napoli for many years.
I wouldn't rule that out. I wouldn't rule that out. And it's going to be fireworks if Napoli don't beat Chelsea. But Conte's certainly under pressure. He's been getting it a lot. I don't know if you saw the Diego Costa interviews, which was quite entertaining to read them, the way he went after Conte. And in a way, the overall message is right, really, that, what we've said, that Conte's methods, they're unsustainable. You can't sustain his kinds of methods for too long. And once you get into the second year, those methods, they don't work. A military training, a military camp, for example, can prepare you for a war. But after a while, it's too much. You can't cope.
I hope that if he leaves Napoli at the end of the season, and if Italy don't make it to the World Cup, there's only one job. There's only one job he should have, and he should have it for 4 years. And that's
back to Italy.
Yeah, I think with the football he plays at international level, the Inter block and the players available, I think he should go back there. I think that's an unfinished business, and I think he would do well to kind of rehabilitate his career by going there. Because after Napoli, I don't see him going back to Inter. I don't see him going back to Juve. There's no room at the inn for him at Milan. Gasperini's doing well at Roma. The big leagues the biggest teams like Real Madrid. Can you see Real Madrid hiring him? Hell no.
No.
Can you see him going to a top club maybe Manchester United in Premier League? But do they want him? I don't think so. That's the only job that he could possibly go to. But having said that, but that also, delivers a different set of problems altogether. But no, I think Italy is the most likely result, the most likely place he would go to.
But one thing,
Italy don't make it to the World Cup.
Well, yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Yeah, I think even if they do make it to the World Cup, can you see Gattuso staying after the World Cup?
After the World Cup, maybe no.
No. Unless they really surprise us, which doesn't look very likely. But one thing I would say about Napoli, which has certainly made things more difficult for Conte, although maybe he's also to blame for this, is Napoli's summer mercato has been a big failure. I think we can 100% say that now after what we've seen in the last week, because Lorenzo Luca and Noah Lang together cost around about 70 million, something like that. Both have already been shipped out of the club. They were both offloaded last week, which I actually think was a mistake to get rid of them before this Juventus game. Because did you see Napoli's bench in this Juventus game? I mean, it was pathetic. They was full of youth players that I'd not even heard of, and so they should have just kept them at least for this game, at least just to have options on the bench, at least so you've got someone. Even if you're only bringing Noah Lang on for 15, 20 minutes, at least you've got someone. And you saw how Napoli fell away at the end because they didn't have anybody to bring on that could do anything, So anyway, so Luca and Lang. Then you've got, obviously, Kevin De Bruyne. There's obviously a bit of misfortune there, but Kevin De Bruyne was brought in as the kind of like the big name signing. He's basically injured for the whole season. Then you've got Gutierrez, who I actually had high hopes for, and I think we can say now he's been a big disappointment. I'm not going to write him off because I think maybe if they can give him time, a new manager like an Italiano, I think something could come of him, but big disappointment. Elmas has been good, but he's not been great. But he's been good. He's been useful. But he's definitely not been a difference maker. He hasn't improved the first team. And Rasmus Højlund has been good. I think he's been good, Rasmus Højlund, and I think Milinkovic-Savic has been a success.
Agreed. And
that's it. So if you look at it in total, it's been a big failure for Napoli, and that's if you have a bad market, you generally have a bad season. If you have a good mercato, you have a good season. It's pretty basic a lot of the time, isn't it? Pretty simple.
No, it is. But I think we can safely say, for me, I tweeted this out after the game. It's a 2-horse race. Napoli are out of the Scudetto race. They have to focus on the top 4 and Coppa Italia to win that and leave on good terms. Because again, for Conte to win everything in Italy over 2 seasons with Napoli, overall, that's a good result. That's not a failure. That's a good result. This season is disappointing, absolutely. But if you look at it overall, winning everything domestically over 2 seasons, that's a good way of saying goodbye.
I forgot to say Sam Bukma as well. I missed Sam. So Sam Bukma has also been a disappointment overall. I think he's been.
You're gonna have Jack, our patron, who's Dutch. Good. Jack, lose his hair and say, "Why are you pronouncing weirdly?" It's Bukma.
That's what I said, wasn't it?
No.
What did I say?
Bukma.
Okay.
Bukma. No, Bukma. I was told. Yeah, anyway.
Okay, Bukma. Giovanni has come from Hellas Verona already. There we go. Lovely. Just what everybody wants to see over their breakfast. Right. So, you said there's a 2-horse race. Let's move on to Roma Milan. 1-1 at the Olimpico. If it's a 2-horse race, I would say that Milan's Scudetto hopes are not hanging by a thread, but they're starting to hang a little bit, let's say, because they're now 5 points off Inter. And they're lucky, let's be honest, they almost somehow won this game. They're lucky to get a draw in this game. And I think that it's not sustainable, Milan, to keep playing the way that they are recently and winning like this. Now, before everybody starts going on at me that I'm just going off at Allegri, at the start of the season, the first few months of the season, I was praising Milan and Allegri. The way that they were playing, even if it wasn't exactly entertaining, if you actually looked at the numbers, the underlying numbers and the hard numbers, Milan were creating more chances than their opponents. They were creating big chances. They weren't conceding that many chances. And even if the football wasn't great, and even if it was still largely counter-attacking football, I was praising them because they were deserving to win games. They were deserving to win these games, and they were more efficient as well. And I said that if they keep playing like this, it is potentially sustainable because if you create, again, making it very simple, if you create more chances than your opponent, generally you're going to win most of the games. It's quite simple. Now, for the last several weeks, I would say certainly December, January, this hasn't been the way Milan have been playing. We've started to see them draw a lot more games. Don't get me wrong, it's very impressive that they're still unbeaten since the first game of the season, but they're drawing a lot of games, drawing too many games. But the way that they're playing, which we saw in the Como game, okay, they managed to win. And that doesn't mean that I like what Fabregas said, and it doesn't mean that I don't disagree with your brilliant attack at Fabregas and Barcelona last week, which I absolutely loved and went completely viral and was probably the funniest thing you've ever said. But many things can be true at the same time. It's not sustainable for Milan to keep playing like this, as they have in the last several weeks, and stay in the title race. It's not sustainable.
Look, it's just to clarify that, because I think some people might not have understood. The problem I have is the gatekeeping of football only being allowed to be played one way. My point was, I like the fact that you have different philosophies battling it out. That's what makes football interesting. My issue is when one side says this is how football is played, and if you don't play that way, you're essentially cheating or you're not doing it properly. I think that's bullshit, complete bullshit. Barcelona, after Cruyff got in there and started this cult behavior, it's cult mentality. This is how football is supposed to be played, and anyone who doesn't play like that is essentially evil and is ruining the game and blah, 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 blah. Personally, I like the Allegri approach better. It's my personal choice. I wouldn't say that this is how football should be played. I like it better. I like this kind of classic Italian risk minimization, harm your opponent, and then close shop. That's just personal preference. But what we saw with Milan yesterday was, I mean, that first half was even I was like, come on, man. Like, come on. Like, I mean, Milan didn't even try to go across the halfway line in the first half. And even I was like, come on, Allegri, like that.
Yeah, and that's not risk minimization. That's the point. Like, no, I mean, personally, just to get onto the philosophical debate here, that's what I love as well. That's what I grew up in. That's what we grew up in during the 90s. You know, that Italy or Italy or Italian teams would play this way, you know, and it was successful. And yes, okay, that style of football isn't as conducive to the modern football because of the way the game changes, the rule changes, the force changes on the game, more athletic game. We know that, but I would like it to work more. But I have no problem with Milan and Allegri playing the way they did in the first 3 months of the season, but not the way that they're playing now, where it's become too much. He's reverted recently. He's reverting to the Juventus 2.0 Allegri recent weeks. And also, just to come to your point, that isn't risk minimization, what we saw in this game, because in that first half, I'll tell you what the numbers were. The first half, the XG of Roma was 1.88 and Milan's was 0.02. And the overall, I think somehow it was 0-0. Look how evil Nima is here, laughing at this. And overall,
I love it. I love him. I love him.
Yeah,
I want him in Inter. Please come in, bring him to Inter.
Please indeed, yeah. And the overall XG in this game was 2.75 to 0.44, I think it was. So look, that is not sustainable. And drawing that game is not risk minimization or design. It's luck. Let's be honest. It's luck that they didn't win this game. And that's the overall point I'm making, because if you look at the underlying numbers here, Milan are now overperforming their expected points by 7 points. So they should have 7. So if they're 5 points behind Inter, they should be 12, actually 10, because Inter are actually overperforming by 2. So they should be, by expected points, they should be 10 points behind Inter now, which they would be out the Scudetto race. They're overperforming their expected goals against by 8 goals. So basically, as we saw in this game, and as we saw in the Como game, and as we've seen in quite a few games recently, the only reason they're still hanging on in the Scudetto race is because of Mike Maignan. Mike Maignan has been a monster this season. He has been an alien, to take Spalletti's words. He's been an alien this season, Mike Maignan. It's massive for him that he's going to sign a new contract now. That's huge. But without Mike Maignan, Milan would be fighting top 4. They wouldn't be fighting or still hanging on the Scudetto race. So that's the point I'm making. Allegri is reverting to the last several weeks. Allegri has reverted to his Juventus, his time at Juventus.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that in the second half Milan were better. They seemed to, they looked more like they were more progressive. They were imposing themselves. To me, I think that was by design. I think this is typical Allegri in the sense that play off the first half, and then we try in the second half. And when Milan scored that first opening goal, I was laughing because I was like, this is vintage Allegri. This is evil Allegri. When I love, this is what he does. He plays up, he kills the first half, then he goes there, takes the lead, and shuts shop. And he would have. They would have won that game had it not been for the stupidity of Bartesaghi. I mean,
no, I agree with that. I think if it wasn't, I thought the second half Milan were better. It was, Roma didn't create the big chances that they created in the first. The first half was a joke. It was actually a joke. How Roma, we'll come to Roma in a bit, how on earth Milan were level at half time, I don't know. But once they'd gone 1-0 ahead, I didn't expect Roma to come back into it. And I think that they wouldn't have done. I agree with what Modric and somebody else said after the game.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
That if they hadn't have got a penalty, they wouldn't have scored in this game. So, I think Milan have got it in them. Like if they can do it in those first few months of the season, they can do it. I just think that the problem with Allegri is that the first sign of difficulty, even at stages of the season, his first mind is just retreat, and just, and then they've moved away from what they were showing in the first months of the season. And there's no excuse to doing that. They're playing once a week. They have quality. You can't say if you've got Luka Modric, even.
But we also have to acknowledge the fact that the very idea that Milan are in a title race is a huge overperformance. They shouldn't be in a title race. The quality of the squad overall just isn't there, regardless of if they play once a week. I think Allegri is doing an absolutely brilliant job. And this is the first year where Redbird has actually, after the shitstorm and disaster of last season and getting rid of Maldini and Massara and all of that, this now with Tare, now the structure is in place. Now Milan actually have an organization, and they have a coach, and they have an identity, and they have something there to build from. Then I think if they finish second, which I think they will, that's a really good first season by Milan. And I think it just kind of also shows what a huge accomplishment last season was by Conte, in the sense that to come back and win after you've had a disastrous previous season is not normal. That's an anomaly. What Allegri's doing, the fact that he is competing for the Scudetto, and I think this is a two-horse race. And the reason I think that is 5 points sounds more than it actually is. We're talking a loss and a draw. And given that Inter in big games, they've got Milan left, which means if they lose that, Milan are 2 points behind Inter, and Inter have Juve as well. So Inter's big match record suggests that this is far from over and that we have a title race on our hands. I think we have to acknowledge the fact that Milan are doing having a really good season, and this is a good first step towards whatever they want to do moving on.
I mean, listen. I think the Scudetto the way that I think the Scudetto hopes are hanging by a thread. Also, because if you look at the next two games, Inter play Cremonese away and Torino at home. So
Torino's in the Coppa Italia.
Torino Coppa Italia. Sorry.
Yeah, they got Sassuolo.
Sorry, yes, Sassuolo. So 2 games you expect them to win comfortably, and Milan have got Bologna away and then Como in Australia. Not really. That's just me taking the piss. They've got Bologna away and Como at home. So the Scudetto race could be over. This is what I said. I said, by the team that puts together the run in January, early February, is the team that wins the Scudetto. And it seems so far that it's Inter that's putting together the run. This month. So the penalty would Milan weren't happy about it. Modric and someone else said, again, listen, the way I look at it is by the rules, it's a penalty. It's naive by Bartizaghi to have his hands out there. But again, I'll just say what I always say. I hate these penalties because, yes, you can say, oh, it's unnatural in that it's not part of his silhouette. But anybody that's played football knows that when you jump, when you're off balance and when the ball gets headed and when you're moving and changing direction and you're on one leg, your hands come out. It's natural. So, I mean, I don't know what to say.
I agree with that. I think there used to be a requirement, if I remember correctly, about intent being more important than the silhouette, and then basically now it's like, well, you shouldn't have your arms by your side like that, and if you do, then it's not a natural movement. I think there should be more room for leeway. But look, if these are the laws and this is how they're supposed to do it, then they have to give that out as a penalty. There's no, and also there used to be this thing with the distance as well between the head of the shot and that you like whether or not you have time to move your arm away and whatnot. And here there wasn't. He was too close to the situation. There was a situation, another handball in the game that wasn't given, which was correct that it wasn't given by a Milan player. And I think that was the correct decision there. So I think the referee got it spot on in this game. But it's if they're told to apply and interpret it like that, then they're told to do it. It's
frustrating. But listen, don't get me wrong. Roma deserved the point. Well, they deserved to win. But it's just frustrating because at that time, Milan will be looking at that and saying, we're 1-0 ahead. I agree. I don't think Roma would have equalised. If you were watching the way the game was evolving in that second half, I don't think Roma would have equalised. It's frustrating to get such a cheap goal, a cheap penalty for something which, for me, I just hate these penalties. I hate that a team can lose 2 points based on something which hasn't really been earned in the incident. They didn't earn it through the play. They earned it from just a back post, puts it back in, and the guy jumps and his hands are a little bit, and he get a penalty for it. It's just.
And the thing is, I think it's not. I mean, for me, it's more an issue of, well, the ball wasn't being played towards the goal. It was being played parallel with the goal. It's one thing if it's a shot that's going towards the goal, and then then I think you can kind of argue more. But when the ball's being played away for or parallel with the goal,
it comes back to the argument I've always said about the crime and the punishment not fitting the crime, and the low, or in this case, there was no XG.
Non-existent.
There was a no XG. So should you trade a 0 XG from that play, that Roma play, to suddenly a 0.8 XG that you get from the penalty? How can the punishment the punishment does not fit the crime for that? And that's where I just think that penalties, as I've said for years now, I think penalties are completely outdated in modern football for that reason, as they are right now. Roma, though, if we talk about Roma, I mean, the first thing I've got written down here on my notes is, how the hell were Roma not ahead in the first half? That's what I've got written down here. If you look at the chances, Marlin should have had a hat-trick. One of the misses, one of his misses was really bad. Celik should have had 2 goals. Cornet should have scored. Sule had a good chance. Maignan made some incredible saves. I mean, it's mad, isn't it? How they weren't winning at half time.
It is. But I have to say, this Roma Gasperini project, I'm very positive about that. I like this Roma. I think Roma are now, even if they don't make top 4 this season, which I think will be difficult, I think they'll just miss out. But regardless, this is a Roma side that will finish in the top 4, if not even potentially be involved in a Scudetto race next season already, with a proper mercato, with players that can work, and he has more time because of the fact that the Serie A is the way it is, and no one can really has the financial muscles to pull away. Roma are back into the top 4 discussion. Defensively this season they've been outstanding. They are creating so much now. I think Marlin is exactly the kind of striker they needed. Sule and Dybala are working well. Okay, we know Dybala's going to leave. He's not really a Gasperini player, but I think Roma are out of the woods in that aspect if they can keep building with Gasperini. I'm really positive about them.
We praise Spalletti, and we have to praise Gasperini because I think Gasperini's doing an amazing job.
Amazing job.
Amazing job, because the print that even before they bought, I agree, Milan's made a big difference. Okay, he missed the chances, and I'm not sure about his finishing in general. I'm not even sure personally. I don't even really know what his best position is. But he's playing obviously as a striker for Roma since he's joined, and just his pace and his movement have given Roma the dimension that they missed, and he's also getting the best out of Dybala and probably by extension Sule, because those kind of players flourish when they have someone ahead of them that has movement and pace. Those kind of classical, Sule's not a classical number 10, but let's say Dybala, let's call it the fantasista number 10-ish kind of players. Yeah. When they have players in front of them that have movement and pace that can make those runs for them, that you get the best out of those kind of players. And so that it's no coincidence that since Marlon signed, we've seen a completely different Dybala. So we're going to see a much better Dybala between now and the end of the season. But even before Marlon came, you could see the print of Gasperini, you could see the patterns of play, you could see the structure. The pressing is working really well. The way that they win the ball back, Milan couldn't get out of basically couldn't even get out of their area. Every single time Milan tried to make a forward pass, part of that I blame Allegri for his inexistent patterns of play, but also that's because they were smothered by Roma's pressing, and that's on Gasperini. So I think that they're building something. Yeah, I do think player for player, there's players here that are not good enough for a Scudetto challenge. But again, like Spalletti with Juve, we're seeing a manager that's able to produce something that's greater than the sum of his parts, as we saw at Atalanta. So any questions about whether it was just Atalanta making Gasperini, I think we can put those to bed. We can say that we're seeing what Gasperini is bringing. And the defence, you're right. I think defence is a surprise, but it's probably Ranieri. I think that's an effect of what Ranieri brought in the defence.
I just a comment on Gasperini. I never forget Mourinho in his when he was at Inter those 2 years. I think immediately after he left, or in between the first two seasons, season 1 and season 2, I think when they asked him which manager caused him the most problems in the Serie A, he said Gasperini when they played Genoa, because he said everything I did, every time I played him, he immediately countered it and nullified it. So we're talking about a great coach, and he did great at Genoa. He did historically well at Atalanta, and he's doing very well at Roma. So no, I think we should give credit where credit is due. I like this Roma. I like this project. I hope they get to keep Kone. I think it'll be very difficult with the ridiculous UEFA financial fair play rules, or whatever they're called these days, and the way that Roma are severely punished by them. Disproportionate.
They're called let's just punish the Serie A financial fair play rules while we ignore Man City committing 100,000.
Well, PSG are champions of Europe, lest we forget. PSG are reigning champions of Europe when we know what happened there, and they how even when UEFA found them in breach of their financial rules, they gave them a slap on the wrist. I think it's ridiculous.
No. Remember, Man City and PSG are the most popular clubs in the world, and they sell the most shirts and the most merchandise. Even though when I was at Goal, I used to see how many people used to read articles on PSG and Man City, and the numbers were so low, I stopped people from writing about them because there's zero interest in them. But somehow these clubs sell more shirts and more merchandise than anyone in the world. How does that happen? But yeah, anyway, get that aside. Kone, though, is the big negative from this game. He'd done his hamstring. It seems like he's done his hamstring. We'll see over the course of Monday, Tuesday with the tests how bad it is. If he's out for a period of time, that's a huge blow. If he's done his hamstring, that's 3 to 4 weeks minimum. So he'll be out till towards the end of February at least. They'll hope that it's a low grade. I mean, if it's depending on the grade, if it's a bad one, then it could be a a Lukaku or De Bruyne kind. I don't think it is because he managed to walk off the pitch, but it's probably going to be a 3 to 4 week one. If you do your hamstring, you're out for 3 to 4 weeks at minimum. So I think that that will be a big blow because he's irreplaceable in that midfield. He provides the energy. And I don't know, maybe Roma would need to sign a midfielder if they can. Maybe they're not able to. Or they bring in Pizzilli, who actually scored 2 in the Europa League, and I would like to see him get more chances. To be honest, for Roma, he scored some good goals there. So, but yeah, overall I like where Roma are going. I think they will fight for the top 4 this season. It will be difficult. It will be difficult because there's 6 teams there, 6 good teams that are worthy of top 4, in my opinion. The top 6 as we are now. Inter, Milan, Napoli, Roma, Juventus, Como are all teams worthy of top 4, and I think all of them will fight for the top 4. So it's who ends up being doing the best out of them.
I agree, and I think I'm with you on that. Like I started this section about Roma. I think they're in a good place. I think they actually have reason to look forward and they have reason to be positive because this is a serious project.
And they're ahead of schedule as well, Nima. I think
they are. They absolutely are. No, it's nice to see.
One last positive on Roma before we move to Inter is you said about the defense. Being the best defense in the league. Most of that has been Mancini and Dika. Hermoso obviously has got an injury recently, and Gilardi's come in and has been.
Gilardi's been good.
He was outstanding. In fact, I think he was the best defender on the pitch in this game. I think he gobbled up the Milan attackers, Leao especially, in this game. So that's positive. Also for Italy, seeing as all our centre backs are bloody useless at the moment. So that's good because he was having a tough time at the start, and it's good to see that he's doing better now.
No, he was really good. I mean, yesterday was his best performance yet, and he was
in the air. He's great in the air for sure. Inter though, Inter come back from 2 goals down. They smashed Pisa for 6. Federico Dimarco, one of the best substitute performances I've ever seen. It was unreal.
He's really having the season of his lifetime, and I think of his career. And he looks happier. He looks comfortable. He looks good. And also what he provides, again, that left foot, it's a cheat code. The way he can deliver crosses, set pieces, the goals he scores, his shooting. He's really doing well, and it's. It changed the game completely, and the fact that Inter have this depth and are able to make these changes and that have an impact on the game is what separates, I think, Inter from the other teams in the Serie A. But no, he was outstanding. I think he's equaled his all-time tally now that we spoke about last week. I think he said.
That's right.
Or was it the week before? No, he's equaled his all-time career tally for goals. But yeah, for me, I want to talk about Francesco Pio Esposito. I mean, this is his first season at this level in the Serie A, at a club the stature of Inter, a top club in Europe, a top club in the Serie A. He scored 3 goals in the Serie A, 1 in the Champions League, 1 in the Coppa Italia. He's delivered 6 assists in total, 3 in the Serie A, 1 in the Champions League. 4 of these total number of assists have been to Lautaro. And he continues to be decisive and continues to be important, and he continues to grow, and he continues to show that he's a unique and special talent. It's not just the physique, it's the combination of everything. He reads the game well. He plays off of his teammates really well. When he needs to be, he attacks the ball really well. When he needs to, he follows up in the sense that he reads his read of the game. No, it's just wonderful to see him. You know, there's been a lot of, we complain a lot about how young Italians aren't being given a chance, but here is a young Italian that's being given a chance at the top club, and he's delivering, and I think that's good.
He's had a great couple of weeks. I thought he was really good when he come on against Arsenal. He was a real handful, and he actually forced Arteta to make a change and bring on Gabriel because the other lad was really struggling. I've forgotten who it was now. Was really struggling against him, I think his strength with his back to goal is his biggest attribute for me. He's a real handful in that aspect. But yeah, obviously the box threat, scored a great header here, and I mean, we kind of answered it. I think the Scudetto race is Milan are hanging in there but Napoli are out. It's looking great for Inter, and with the next couple of games coming up, it could be over soon. But yeah, it's looking great. It's looking great for Inter. There's not really much more to add than that. Their form is insane.
But Inter need to, Cremonese and Sassuolo, those are fundamentally important games, because regardless of if they beat Borussia Dortmund or not, they're not going to finish in the top 8. And so
they'll rest everyone for that game. There's no point even.
But he won't. They've made it clear that they're going to try to go for it and pray for a miracle. But that means extra games, and that means that they're going to need whatever cushion they've got against Milan over the next 2 weeks when they play Cremonese and Sassuolo away. Lest we forget, Sassuolo are a bogey team away for Inter. So those 2 next games, Inter needs 6 points from those, and if they can win those, then if minimum 5 to 7 points, then I think we can say, okay, now we're kind of towards the champions elect category.
So Sommer obviously made a huge mistake in this game. Who should Inter sign to replace him? Who do you want Inter to sign?
This is a really, I mean, on the one hand, Sommer, on the one hand, you're like, okay, they should have signed someone last summer. I think they should have gone after Vanja Milinkovic-Savic. I like him a lot. He's my favorite goalkeeper of the ones that were available. This no one really excites me. I think Caprile is good, but I don't think he's good enough to play for Inter. That's just, I don't like what I've seen. Pep Martinez doesn't seem to be someone they trust enough. And then you're looking at Vicario. Okay, he was a link to Inter before he went to Spurs, and he was pretty much going to join Inter, but then they preferred to go after Sommer and invest elsewhere. And they couldn't really compete with Tottenham in terms of money, as no Italian club can compete with the Premier League sides. And now there's talk of Vicario again. And I'm thinking, well, I don't know. I'm not too excited about that. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not too excited about that. But then again, I think we have to kind of trust the process a little bit here when it comes to that, because we've seen Inter do well when it comes to Onana, when it came to Sommer, even though he's past his best, they've managed to do that. They've managed to do well. So regardless who they sign, I think we have to kind of trust the process that Marotta and Ausilio have seen something, because they tend to get that position right, even if it's just stopgaps. But no, for me, it's not going to happen. But Vanja Milinkovic-Savic was my number one choice. But that ship has sailed now.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Okay. All right. Great. Como smashed Torino for 6-0. Como are right in the race for 4th as well. As we said, they're only 2 points off Juventus, 3 points off 4th or third and 4th. Baturina is really emerged now, because he was signed and tipped as one of the potential signings of the season. I think I tipped him as one of the potential signs of the season, and he barely got a chance in the first half of the season. And now he's broken into the team, and he's been absolutely outstanding in the last weeks. Absolutely brilliant. And Duvikas as well, scoring a lot of goals. He's now one of the top scorers in the league. He's scoring where Morata wasn't. Yeah, Como are looking great.
They do. When they play against teams that are as open as Baroni's Torino are, then they can just expose them and rip them apart. I'm not surprised that they won 6-0. I don't think Baroni's doing a particularly good job at Torino. And I think he'll be replaced, if not sacked, because they could potentially be dragged downward, which is worrying. But I think Como are going to definitely push the rest of them for the top 4 spot. I don't think they're going to get it. I still think that in the big games against the best teams, I still think they're lacking, both tactically and qualitatively. But no, it was an impressive performance, and Como are going to be in Europe next season, probably most likely in the Europa League.
Yeah, for sure. We'll just go through the rest of the fixtures now. So Fiorentina 1, Cagliari 2. So Fiorentina's good run ends. They just dip back into the relegation zone. Palestra with a goal and an assist for Cagliari. So great game for him. Some moving scenes before kickoff with Local Commisso commemoration. Lecce 0, Lazio 0. If we're talking about clubs falling apart, Lazio are completely disintegrating before our very eyes. It's very sad. And I saw just over the weekend, our friend of the show, Stephen Moore from Laziali, tweeted that this month Lazio have sold their best striker, Castellanos, their best midfielder, Guendouzi, their best goalkeeper, Mandas, and he said they're about to sell their best, or their captain and main centre-back, Romagnoli, although it now seems that Romagnoli is actually going to stay after Sarri said that with Romagnoli being sold, the club is going to concede a lot of goals, which maybe helped force them to stay. But Sarri's quotes after the game were really quite demoralising, I think, for everyone, but certainly for Lazio fans. He said after the game that Lazio have downgraded massively, that players are leaving due to a lack of ambition. He said that he only stayed at the club in the summer after the embargo, and he's only stayed at the club since, even after this month, out of love and respect for the fans. Lotito tried to claim that the players were leaving because of Sarri, which obviously we know is complete bollocks. It feels... Tell me if I'm completely off here. I'm not, a massive Lazio expert in terms of the what's going on internally in the club. But it feels from the outside like Lotito is maybe stripping parts, planning a sale, cutting costs to sell the club. Is that how it is? Could that be a possibility? Or is it just Lotito being Lotito on steroids?
I don't know. I think that could be part of it. But it's regardless, Lotito has to go. This is not working anymore at any level. He has managed now to alienate everyone. Rome, you need to have friends in Rome, and you need to have friends in important places. You need to have friends, diplomatically speaking. He has none now. He has power because of his influence as a politician and his influence overall, but nobody likes him. Nobody wants him. It's not just the fans now. You can clearly see it's the players. You can clearly see it's the coach. The media have turned against him. This is not tenable. He has to sell the club, and he has to leave Lazio before Lazio end up in even worse situation where they potentially could even... I mean, who knows where this could end?
Well, Sarri said we're now a team fighting against relegation.
Yeah,
that is depressing. I mean, I don't think it's that bad, but it's
no.
They're a mid-table team now. They're not a team that can even fight for Europe with in the aftermath of this January window?
It's a disaster. It's embarrassing, and it's unacceptable. Lazio should not be run like this. And Lotito has, I think overall, if you look at it, he's been good for Lazio if you consider where the shit they were in when he took over and where they are, what they've done. But this is now, it's unacceptable. I mean, 29 points, 12 points off the relegation. It should be all right. But there's only that much Sarri can do. And we knew this was going to happen. I mean, the season was over before it began for Lazio. And Lazio fans have nothing to look forward to. And now the way that he's selling players to bring in cash suggests that it wasn't the way that they said it was, that Lotito claimed it was. There's something deeper going on here. And I fear for Lazio because the Serie A needs Lazio. The Serie A needs a strong Lazio, and this is genuinely a tragedy. It's sad, and it's mismanagement now at every level. Before you could argue, well, at least he's doing this well, or he's doing that. Nothing he's doing now is being done well. Nothing. So,
yeah, it's a total disaster. Sassuolo won. Yeah, go on.
No, I just wanted to say, just on Fiorentina Cagliari, what a moving tribute that was. And Cagliari, I like Cagliari. The way Palestra is, what a revelation. And I hope for his and the Serie A's sake that he goes to Juve if Spalletti stays at Juve. I think he would be perfect there. Fiorentina have their work cut out for them. They have it. The next couple of weeks is life or death when they play fellow relegation candidates, and they have to win those.
Yeah.
With the prayer. Yeah. Because Lecce, I look at it, because of Genoa beating Bologna, that was a fundamentally important win. I think it's going to be it's Lecce plus the bottom three that are there that are going to fight.
I think watch out for Cremonese because they're in free fall. Sassuolo beat Cremonese 1-0. Cremonese are only 6 points above, and they're getting sucked in. And if you look at their run of form, last 8 games, they have no wins, but they have 7 blanks. 7 of those 8 games, they've not scored a goal in. So that they're in crisis now. Cremonese, they're only 6 points above because of their good starts to the season. So Davide Nicola, I think, could also be at risk if this continues for another few games because they're in free fall. So I think that watch out for them as well. Atalanta 4, Parma 0. Atalanta, great performance. Raspadori scoring on his debut. De Ketelaere is playing great. And also, under the radar, out of nowhere, Kristovic is hitting form now. 5 in his last 5 games. So,
Atalanta is...
Yeah, Atalanta are a team that we should say, like, they're 7 points behind Juventus, and they're 8 points off the top. I mean, that's still quite significant, but... they're playing well enough to suggest that they could, potentially, it's not out of the question, they could get back into that top 4 race.
As I've been saying for a couple of weeks, I think watch out for Atalanta. I think they're going to throw their hat in the ring for top 4. And I hope that for the Serie A's sake, I hope Atalanta get into a European spot because Atalanta always do well in Europe. And we need Atalanta to. And
very quickly, look, we have to move on because I've got to get off to work. Genoa 3, Bologna 2. Incredible comeback. 2 down half an hour to go. Some great goals. And Messias, great winner. De Rossi's really got Genoa, the team, together. He's a great motivator, De Rossi. But Bologna are in free fall. 1 win, 3 draws in their last 10 games. Total. I don't know what's happened there. That team is really
regressing to the mean. I mean, there's only that much you can do. You can't make chicken soup with chicken shit, and he's been working with the chicken turds all season. So, this is where they are. They're 8th. That's what the quality of their team is. He's not underperforming. He's doing on par with expectations. And the Mercato they had last summer was
really bad. Hellas Verona Udinese on Monday evening. Right. Before we get to the Champions League games, very quickly, Marco Verratti, according to multiple reports, Gennaro Gattuso is considering or even more than that, recalling Marco Verratti to the Azzurri squad ahead of the World Cup 2026 qualifying playoffs in March. According to the Italian media, Verratti's name is on the table as an experienced midfield option, and Gattuso even travelled to Qatar to speak with him directly about the possibility. A recall is actively being weighed up by Gattuso and the coaching staff. So Marco Verratti getting recalled by Italy. Is this a good move, or is it a desperate move? I mean, Verratti hasn't played for Italy nearly 3 years. He's been playing in Qatar for the last 2.5 years, away from the elite level. He's 33 years old. I mean, it feels like desperation, Nima, doesn't it?
That's what my feeling is as well, because I don't watch the Qatari League. I hope everyone forgives me for that. But I don't watch the Qatari League. And what form are we getting him in? And the fact that you're turning to Verratti after 3 years like this, it doesn't fill me with confidence going into the World Cup playoffs. Let me put it to you that way. Everything about Gattuso's way of handling, everything about the way that the FIGC is handling this is, it's like you're on the Titanic and you're seeing the iceberg coming, you know. And I'm not confident at all. I'm worried now.
Yeah, there's certain signals that certain decisions give, isn't there? And when you see something like this, you're thinking, you know, it reminds me a bit of when Roberto Mancini 4 years ago. Do you remember? He was considering recalling Mario Balotelli for the playoffs then. I think he was playing in Turkey at the time, and when we were really struggling for a striker. And that, I think I on this pod said the same thing. I said this nothing against the player or his ability or nothing. It's just the optics of it.
It doesn't fill me.
It gives vibes. It gives bad vibes. Do you know what I mean? It gives vibes that we're worried, we're scared, we're panicking, we're desperate to find a solution, and we're just grabbing for something. Oh, let's just go back to Marco Verratti. You know, I haven't watched a single game of him since he left PSG. I have no idea how he's playing at all. I mean, Gattuso wants a deep line playmaker, a regista, and he sees Verratti. I mean, in that sense, the profile fits, but we have no idea what his performance is like. Also, remember, Qatar is not Saudi Arabia. You know, the Saudi Arabian League has lots of top talents in. Okay, it has, you know, the locals, but it has the foreigners. Qatar, not really.
Saudi, even the locals, Saudi players are decent players. Like they're better than the Qatari players. Sure.
I mean, the only positive example I can think of to give me any hope is Kante, because he's been in Qatar and he got recalled by France, and Kante was still pretty good. So that's my only hope. You know,
the state of affairs, man. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yeah, it's bloody yeah, it is desperation time, isn't it? It is. It's just like, yeah. Anyway, okay, right. Champions League fixtures. So last game of the league phase: Monaco, Juventus, Borussia Dortmund, Inter, Union SG, Atalanta, Napoli, Chelsea, and in the Europa League, Panathinaikos, Roma, Maccabi Tel Aviv, Bologna. The situation with Juventus, Inter, and Atalanta. Well, Juventus and Inter is pretty simple. They were both on 12 points. It's basically impossible for them to get into the top 8. They're just playing just for a higher seeding for the first knockout round. Atalanta have more of a chance. If they win, there is still a chance they could, but they kind of blew it last week, losing to Athletic there. But it's all about Napoli. It's all about Napoli, and they have to beat Chelsea to go through. It's win or bust. Win, they're through. Draw or lose, they're out. Simple as that for Napoli. And given the state of their team, the condition of the team and the injury list, I'm not hopeful. I'll be honest.
It doesn't fill us with lots of confidence, to put it that way. And I think the fact if Conte were to miss out on 24, that would even eclipse the worst result that he has ever done in Europe, and that is finishing dead last in that Champions League group with Inter, because Napoli should not miss out on 24 out of 24 teams. Like, it's just it's a huge failure. Huge failure.
For sure. And Panathinaikos, Roma win will get them in the top 8. A draw could be enough as well. But Bologna, top 8 is basically impossible for them after that stupid draw against Celtic, a 10-man Celtic team. So they're just playing for a high seeding as well. Okay, right. Let's finish off with Baggio. Oh, Fiorentina Como in the Coppa Italia on Tuesday. Let's finish off with Baggio, Premface, and Serie ASS of the week. So Baggio of the week, Como for their result, but also I think the commemoration for Rocco Commisso. And also I want to give a shout out to Roma. Their choreography before the Milan game was a thing of absolute beauty.
Stunning.
It was gorgeous. And the hymn as well. It was the whole, intro to that game as the players come out was amazing.
These Rome clubs and their songs, like it's so beautiful. It really is. No, I agree with you. It's something magical about night games at the Olimpico, at the San Siro. It's special. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it certainly is. Premface of the week, I have Virgil van Dijk, or as he's better known, the greatest defender of all time. Yeah, better than Paolo Maldini. So he made his latest gaffe in the Liverpool's defeat at the weekend, where he completely misjudged a long ball over his head, miskicked it, and then the opposition scored from it. And his excuse at the end of the game was the wind. He blamed the wind. Look at his clothes.
I mean, my favorite, it's like, it reminds me of, what's his name? Mazzarri, and then it started to rain. Like, of all my favorite Mazzarri blaming everything under the sun, it's this is the wind, diarrhea. Mazzarri had a fantastic rant when he was at Regina, blaming diarrhea, that his players had diarrhea and that's why they lost, which is just chef's kiss good. But some of the excuses is
And if you watch the instant of this, like, the wind didn't even really do much to it either. Like we saw the incident itself. Like the wind barely moved the ball at all. That is some excuse, blaming the wind. The king of excuses, though, are your favourite team, Barcelona. Xavi in particular always finds an excuse. Whenever Xavi loses a game, or whenever Barcelona lost a game, especially during the Dwarves era, as you would call it, they always had the blame. They blamed the pitch, the length of the pitch. The pitch length was too short. The length of the grass. They didn't water the pitch. I mean, some of the excuses that Barcelona used to come out were pretty amusing. Serie ASS of the week. There's some.
I've got a couple. I've got some. First of all, you and me are Serie ASS and Premface, because we got suckered. The Batuta Advocate article. The Batuta Advocate is like the Onion from Australia, and the one that we had last week.
Okay, well, don't put me into it. It was your choice. You picked it.
Yeah, but you
could have blamed me for it.
Yeah, no. You could have known that.
Oh, you wanted me to BBC fact check it? Okay, right. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
BBC verified. Carlo verified.
And also the Serie A's Instagram North America account using the wrong club logo for Napoli against in an Instagram post that's been deleted. I can't remember.
What do they use?
They should have used. I can't remember. It's been deleted now, but I had a note. But they used the wrong club logo for, which is funny.
All the fuck is same. Yeah. Right. Well, I've got so many good ones this week. So first of all, Atalanta's security system. This is brilliant. Have you seen the video? So there's a video. I hope you've seen it because we put it on our socials. Go to our socials. You'll see the video. So this English, I think he's English fan, went to watch Atalanta, and he's outside the gates, and there's a security system where you have to type in to get through the gates. And so he on the gates there is the badge, the logo, Atalanta 1907, and he goes, what could the passcode be to break into Atalanta Stadium? Let's have a little go here. And he types in 1907, presses enter, the gates open. I mean, can you believe it? I mean, that is, yeah.
It reminds me of that 1980s Mel Brooks film Spaceballs, when the combination for the super weapon was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, it's just...
Yeah. How many people, let's be honest, how many people listen to this pod actually have 1, 2, 3, 4 as their pin for their phone? I bet it's a lot. I actually know quite a few people, or they use their date of birth. In fact, you know what? I've got a great story. This is fantastic. I've got a great Bedford story, right?
Ooh.
So last year, right, my dad got arrested for feeding the homeless, right? Yes, that really did happen.
Yeah,
This is how stupid the Bedford police are, right? That my dad, everybody knows that our cake shop, we're massive on charity. Every single day we have homeless people, we have addicts, we have people off the streets, as the police called them, that come into our cake shop, and every single day, not just my dad, but we all do, but especially my dad, we feed the homeless. We give them food, we give them cakes, we make them pizza. We just last week actually, a homeless girl come in, an addict. She was in a terrible state. She had no shoes on. She was walking barefoot, and it was cold. It was freezing. It was like -1. You know what my dad did? My dad happened to have some spare shoes of his. They're about 2 sizes too big for her. He got them, and he says, "Here, have these." And she put them on, and she walked off. So this is what we do, right? And anyway, so about a year ago, one day, these 2 guys turn up at the shop, and as my dad always does, he asks no questions. They come in, and he just fed them. All of a sudden, as he gives them the food, like 7 police cars turn up outside our cake shop, right? And 7 police cars turn up outside our cake shop, and they all rush in, and they arrest my dad and another member of staff, and under the charge of that he was these 2 people had just been shoplifting before, and they were carrying some bags of shoplifted goods, and my dad was arrested on suspicion of buying stolen goods, which there was. In fact, we didn't even see the bags. We don't even know where the bags were, to be honest. So he was arrested on suspicion. He was put in a cell for the day. I arrived. I wasn't there. I arrived on the scene. I've got still got the video of it, which I'll use if they ever try anything funny in the future, where I interrogated the police, and I've got them on camera basically telling us that he was arrested for feeding people off the streets, right? Which was actually unreal. Anyway, this went on for 3 months. He had his phone confiscated. I'm going to get to the point where this relates to the Atalanta security system. They investigated for 3 months. He wasn't charged. Then they extended it for another 3 months. So it lasted for 6 months. 6 months investigation by Bedford police for feeding the homeless. So this is absolutely insane, right? Anyway, during all this, in the end, obviously the charges, or there was no charges. The case got dropped because my dad was literally just feeding the homeless, and it got dropped. We haven't decided whether we could, if we wanted to, we could right now. We could claim for compensation and everything for quite a lot of money if we wanted to. I don't know whether we want to be honest with you, because the repercussions that might come from that. But anyway, Bedford police are fucking idiots, right? That's the number one thing. But during this time, he got his phone confiscated at the time because they had to do investigations. They had to check his phone to see if he'd been communicating with these shoplifters to buy. I mean, it's just insane, right? So anyway, so when they confiscated his phone, I was dealing with the police and with our lawyer, going through them. Number one, they're the, like, you think how dumb the average person is. Multiply it by 1,000. That's how dumb Bedfordshire Police was trying to communicate and with these people was just it was hard. But anyway, they were begging me for months for me to give them the passcode to my dad's phone throughout this time, right? And I was like, no, I'm not giving it, because I know that if the police want to get into your phone, they have to pay like £10,000 to break into it. It costs them a lot of money. So I'm like, I'm not giving it to you. I mean, I could have given it to them, or my dad could have given it to them, and you know, they could have gone into his phone, and obviously they wouldn't have found anything. But I thought, no, I'm not going to give them that. So I didn't give it to them. The crazy thing about it was, do you know what his passcode was?
1, 2, 3, 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, can you believe it? And they had his phone for 6 months before they gave it back. We got it back after 6 months, his phone, which messed up a lot of business. He had all his stuff on his phone. He lost his cousin, who was like his best friend growing up, and he didn't even know about it because they contacted him on his phone while they had it confiscated. So my dad's really angry about that. During that time, all they had to do was type 1, 2, 3, 4 to get into the phone, and they didn't get into it. Now, so as I just said before, if you want to know how stupid and dumb Bedford Police are, they couldn't even break into a phone that had 1, 2, 3, 4 on the passcode.
I mean, surely you try that 1, 2, 3, 4, because it's not like. I mean, yeah, I suppose they didn't want the ping. If they tried it more than 3 times, you know, you could. Yeah, they probably. Yeah, I don't know, but it's that's that situation.
Don't make excuses for them. They are dumb. They are.
No, I don't. I'm just saying that I think the situation that happened is disgusting. You have someone who helps his community, and then you arrest him. I mean, without having any real evidence and just wasting money, and you attack a 70-year-old man, and it's just insane.
Yeah, but the good news is that this will be in a TV series that I've written on the bakery that I'm currently speaking to production companies about, and this will be in there, and it will be very entertaining. And I might even put the original footage, which I have on my phone, in it. That would be great as well.
I think you should. Another Serie A this is my favorite one, is how Cremonese forgot Aldero. He was doing an interview.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And the bus drove away, and he wasn't in it after they played Sassuolo. So they had to go by car return. It's just, they forgot him, like Home Alone, like Kevin McAllister. Brilliant.
That's what first thing I thought was Home Alone. It was brilliant.
Kevin! It's brilliant. Brilliant. That was hilarious.
I love that.
Yeah.
Penultimate one, the orange ball. Nima, can you just remind me, how long ago was it that the Serie A announced that they were stopping the use of the orange ball because colorblind people like myself can't watch anything because of the clash between the orange, or the red rather, with the green? How long ago was that?
When did Napoli play Juve at the Maradona? Because that's when I remember we recorded it that week. So yeah, it's
over a month now. It was before Christmas, right?
Yeah.
So why 4 or 5 weeks later are we still playing with an orange ball? I mean, it's insane. I mean, the Serie A announced, but you know, we can't. It takes us some time before we can get the white ball. You know, and how does it take 5 weeks to just fucking get a white ball? There's some white balls. Use some white fucking Puma balls. I'm sure you've got it. I mean, if it's not the exact current 2026 white ball, just use a white ball. So you've decided to go another 5 weeks where 12% or however many, 10% of your audience can't watch the games. You've just decided for another month of 10% of your audience not being able to watch the games. That's great.
They didn't start the season with the orange balls. I remember we had different balls at the beginning.
No, we didn't. This is the winter ball. Yeah, it's the winter ball.
So surely they have access to it.
Yeah.
Don't they? I mean,
well, of course. But even if they don't, just get some white. Just get the old model. Just get some fucking white balls. I mean, I just don't understand it. And that brings me on to the final point. Yeah, the Serie A, the Deloitte Money League, which I know you spoke about in more detail on Thursday. It just sums up. I mean, just football in general is ass. Is the Serie A, because the Premier League last week, at the end of the penultimate game of the league phase, 5 of the top 8 in the Champions League are English. You've also got Man City, who, if they win their final group game, will get in the top 8 as well. So therefore, there's a very big chance that 6 of the 8 teams, top 8 teams in the league phase, are going to be English teams. So anybody crying about the Super League before, the Super League is here. It's called the English Super League. Okay? I don't want to hear anything more about, but we've got to save football. The Super League is here already. 5, maybe 6 of the top 8 in the Champions League are English teams. So football is done. Football is in complete crisis. This is not good. You can't tell me that this is good for football. It's a total disaster. I mean, if you look at the Deloitte Football Money League, if we just look at the Serie A clubs, Inter are now the 11th richest club in the world. Milan are the 15th richest club in the world. Juventus have fallen to 16th, which is depressing. I remember in the 2000s where Juventus were like top 3, top 5 all the time. So were Milan. So were Inter. I mean, it's really depressing. But Juventus are 16th. But if you look at the commercial revenue, that's where it's really depressing. Basically, Juventus, Milan, and Inter are all earning kind of between 150 to 160 million on commercial revenue. Then compare that to the English clubs, and you've got. I'm just looking now. Man City, over 400 million a year commercial revenue. Arsenal over 300. Man United 400. Tottenham Hotspur over 330 million. I mean, you look at that, the commercial revenue is depressing. And that's where, the point I make is that's where we don't help ourselves. We use an orange ball where 10% of the audience can't watch the game. And then you wonder why the commercial revenue is so low. I mean, it's all part of the same problem, So yeah, it's just, there's two asses. Football as a whole is an ass, and Serie A trying to help itself is an ass. When you look at, you look at these. These facts.
I got nothing more to add. I remember when the European Super League started, and everyone was arguing against me. I just refer back to the arguments I made then, that it's this is about the Serie A and the other leagues saving themselves from being feeder leagues to the Premier League. Now, and then I urge everyone to go and listen to the Q&A pod, which we made is free for everyone on YouTube and podcast platforms, where Patrick and I discussed this for 20 minutes as to why it is, what can be the step forward. And Patrick's explanation was very spot on, in the sense that Portugal, Italy could be forced to go the Portuguese route, become a feeder league.
But we already are.
No, but fully, like much more so, even give up even the ambition of trying to, and it's sad. And
Sure. It's great. Okay. Well, we'll leave it at that. Thanks everyone for listening. I should add, we've got an interview which I did with Bakary Sagna, former Arsenal and Benevento player, and Man City and France. Really good interview. It gave some good stuff.
Comes out tomorrow.
Yeah, it comes tomorrow. A couple of big Italian clubs that he was very close to signing, which he tells us about. He is actually a fan of one of the major Italian clubs. Has been since a kid, which I didn't know. Talks a lot about it's good. It's a good interview. I really enjoyed that actually. So yeah, check that out on Tuesday. Wednesday, Nima's doing a post-match reaction on the final league phase games. So he'll kind of condense all the Italian clubs. Obviously, the main focus will be Napoli, and then Thursday we'll do the Q&A. So you've got plenty for you guys this week.
For sure.
And do subscribe to our YouTube channel. I can't stress enough. Please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, because over the coming months we're going to have a lot more footage. We've got footage of Serie A now, and where we can produce highlights and highlights packages of games of Serie A players, and we're going to be doing more over time once we kind of get used to the system. So do subscribe to us. You're going to see a lot of kind of footage that you won't get elsewhere.
And also, if you want to listen to all the pods, get them firsthand without any ads, patreon.com/TIFP, or if you want to watch it, YouTube memberships. It's on our YouTube page, youtube.com/@itafootpod. So yeah, that's all the time we had. That's all we had this week, or for the Monday pod. We'll be back, like Carlos said, Bakary Sania tomorrow, post-match reaction on the Champions League on Wednesday, and the Q&A on Thursday. So yeah, plenty to look out for.
Thank you, guys. Ciao, ciao.